Today is Thursday, May 13th, 2021, which means it's far past time for an episode. Hello, fiendlings, how the hell are ya? So far, 2021 can kiss my ass. The Luna Fiend got sick shortly before I had to take Keko for her final visit to the vet. Things became exceedingly worse over the weekend, and so Luna and I traveled to the vet. Her owner absolutely certain he was about to decide the fate of another of his furry family. As you might imagine, I was a tad despondent. After many tests, and I don't even want to tell you how much money, we still have no diagnosis, only theories. Luna is back home with me now, and I don't sleep through the night because of how often she needs to go out as well as other matters. As such, I've been stumbling through the past 6 days like a zombie. We might have things under control now, but I obviously won't know until a few more days have passed. Strange as it seems, that's the good news. The bad news is that she has a precancerous tumor on her spleen that will have to be removed before it metastasizes. However, they can't operate on said tumor until we figure out what else is wrong with her. Nice catch-22, huh? Between bouts of short-lived unconsciousness when I wasn't driving to the vet, that was nearly 3.5 hours of my life this week, or in the vet's office, 18 hours so far this week, I did manage to finish editing Trident. I'm putting the final touches on it and should be delivering a beta to my Patreon patrons next week. After I receive a little feedback and make sure I haven't completely lost my mind, it'll be off to Severed and I'll be off to the recording studio so we can finish our journey through the Derelict Saga and I can sell a few audiobooks while I wait for the ebook and trade paperback to start hitting their virtual shelves. Now that you've heard the latest installment of the country western song that I call my life, how about some story? How about 26 minutes of it? Be safe, have a great week, and we'll talk again real soon. Here's episode 23 of Derelict, Trident. Chapter 37. Nothing had happened for 20 minutes. Just more hurry up and wait. At least that's the way it appeared to the other Marines. Callie, however, was on the command channel and it was more than a little full of voices. Boy, it was getting difficult to keep track. Dunn and Murdoch were busy stuffing groggy and vomiting scientists into EVA suits and doing their best to secure Elliot to Gunny's medical stasis pod. Elliot was going to be luggage once again, but this time he'd be more like a mounted rifle. That was the theory. All the while, Black, Noble, and Dunn asked one another questions and Noble continued running through their inventory, accounting for every remaining round, grenade, and munition the Marines had available. Kelly's heart sank as she listened to the depressing numbers. Standing her post near the hangar entry to the spire, thankfully still shut and even more thankfully nothing appeared to be trying to enter. Fine with her. The ammo count? Not so much. If they spread the ammo evenly amongst the combat Marines, someone always came up a mag short. Even with Black running the permutations, there was no way to ensure every Marine had a spare.
"If I may, Captain,"
Black said.
"there is another option."
"Which is?"
"We divvy out the contents of Lieutenant Oakes's spare magazines and 2 rounds from his loaded magazine."
Silence filled the radio and dragged out longer by the microsecond. She could almost hear Dunn and Noble thinking. Oakes, too. But she thought there might be a block conversation going on as well.
"I'll do it, Captain,"
Oakes said in a firm, steady voice. Another moment of silence filled the comms before Dunn said,
"Thank you, Lieutenant. I'll send Murdoch to collect it." "Aye, sir." "With that settled,"
Dunn said.
"Noble, my plan is to leave Oakes in sole charge of the ship. He and Black will coordinate the best they can with the trio. Noble, pick a squad to go point and one to cover our asses. We have a lot of people to move, and I bet most of them have never EVA'd through wreckage." "Where do you want me, sir?"
Noble asked.
"You're with Elliot and the pod. Recruit some scientists to help guide it while the electromagnets have power, and you don't risk it floating away. If it does run out of power, we'll figure it out. Copy?"
"Copy, sir."
"Good. Get your squads ready. The nausea drugs have almost taken effect and the last of the scientists has finally stopped puking."
Kelly smirked despite herself. Both the captain and LT were going to be in the middle of that mess, their rifles ready in case the point guard couldn't hold. She briefly wondered if that was also because Dunn didn't trust Noble in combat.
"Callie Mora,"
Noble said over the command channel.
"as soon as Murdoch delivers your package, hand out the remaining ammo, the good stuff. Make sure everyone has a spare mag, as many grenades and claymores as we have left, and get them ready to move. I want your squad to cover our asses."
Kelly bit her lip. Copy, sir. Sir, may I ask why you want me in the rear? Noble chuckled.
Not a slight, Corporal. If you look at the flight plan, our asses are going to be hanging out more than once. You'll end up being point guard twice. More if we have to double back.
Is that a possibility, sir? Another pause. Through her visor, she could see Dickerson and Carb's helmets pointed at her. They knew she was talking with someone on the command crew. She imagined both of them were just dying to be in on this conversation.
The trio is blind in several points. We have to...
Excuse me, sir, who is blind? Noble gave a long sigh.
Corporal, I don't have time for the whole story, and in truth, even I don't have all of it. They have very little control of the station, and they don't remember shit.
Kelly had felt a brief moment of hope coupled with something akin to terror at the mention of the artificial beings. Upon waking, her first surprise was being alive. Her second was that another S&R company had perished seemingly without putting up much of a fight. And now, the trio, the very sentience that sent S&R Black into the Kuiper to unleash the plague hiding aboard Mira, don't even remember doing it? We're going to die, she said aloud. Luckily, her mic was muted. She waited until she thought she had control of her voice and said, Copy, sir.
Get the squads ready, Corporal. Let's not fuck this up.
Aye, sir. She turned toward Carb and Dickerson and activated the squad channels. Okay, people, listen up. Dickerson watched the line of suits disembark from the ship. Most of them stepped with awkward movements that reminded him of children learning to magwalk. Poor bastards probably hadn't done a real spacewalk in months, maybe years. He sighed just as his private comms came to life.
These assholes are really going to slow us down,
Carb said. Dickerson was thinking the same thing. That many bodies plus a damn medical stasis pod wasn't going to make anything easy. He tried to imagine lugging the pod through tight corridors or through an opening in a lattice of twisted metal, and kept not being able to do it. Add in exosolar baddies, and you were talking about the impossible. Carb, you have anything real to add?
Apart from the fact Elliot looks more like luggage than ever?
Dickerson grinned. She was absolutely correct. The difference was that this time the maimed Marine was holding a rifle, awake and alert and ready to fire. Elliot was probably enjoying the hell out of it. At least he's alive, Dickerson mumbled. Their charge, the body inside the stasis pod? He hadn't heard anyone whisper any rumors about Gunny's health or if he'd survived. No one dared speak the thought aloud because it was just too damn disheartening. Kelly Moore approached them with her practiced magwalk glide step. Void, but it was disturbing watching a Marine exhibiting that kind of grace in a combat suit. The squad channel came to life when she was 2 meters away.
You two locked and loaded? Hi, boss.
Carb said immediately. Ah, Corporal.
Good. We're covering, but we're going to be the first squad in the corridor.
Dickerson nodded with approval. Make a wall before they enter. Make sure nothing can jump them.
Right.
Kelly Moore said.
We'll hold the spine side. Turn down your lights as low as you can. I don't want to give anything in there a reason to come after us.
A cold chill crawled down Dickerson's spine. The darkness waited for them along with vast empty corridors and others with guests in waiting. The darkness would be bad. Bodies would be worse. Aboard Mira, the corpses were shocking, sure, but they hadn't held any emotional attachment. Those people had died long before Dickerson had even been born. But all the staff he knew, his fellow Marines, even the squiddies he played darts with, any of them could be spinning in the freezing vacuum, hands clutching at their throats, faces frozen in a...
Dickerson?
He snapped back and realized the corporal had said something. Sorry?
Get your fucking head in the game.
Dickerson stiffened. Ah, Corporal.
Got a problem with the plan?
Kelly Moore asked.
No, boss.
Carb said. Dickerson cleared his throat. No, Corporal.
Good. Let's get to the firing line.
He and Carb followed Kalimura to the hatch leading into the S&R facility. Once that was opened, it would spill the squad into a wide corridor adjoining 3 others. It was the route he'd often traveled when he was in a hurry to get from the personnel decks to the S&R bays. From there, they could go in any direction. 4 slip points within a 20-meter radius, each leading to a different portion of the station, including the dreaded shipyard alley, which no one had used in decades. The med bays had their own express slip point. If Dunn didn't try that one first, Dickerson would be shocked. A private connection request came through, and it made Dickerson smile. Well, I see they didn't manage to get you a new hand yet. Elliot laughed.
No, not yet. If I want that, they tell me I have to go to medbay or something like that.
You know, Dickerson said, I hear tell we might be headed there.
Well, I'll be a suckling pig. I heard the same thing.
Dickerson grimaced. Suckling pig? You can do better than that.
Sure I can, but it wouldn't annoy you as much.
Got that right, Dickerson said. Take care of the captain and the LT.
You know it.
Elliot said. Take care of yourself, too.
You know it.
Dickerson cut the connection. In his rear cam, he saw that Dunn and Noble had managed to organize their rabble into something like a phalanx around the stasis pod. Dickerson shook his head. Not enough rifles. Apart from Elliot and the two officers, there was no one to cover the flanks of the civvies. If something got too close, he doubted the trio of Marines would be able to do much. So don't let it come to that, he said aloud. Carb's voice cut across the comms.
Boss, I know you're busy, but when you get a chance, you want to tell us what's really going on?
Frustration colored every one of the corporal's words.
If I knew, I'd tell you.
Carb said nothing in reply. Dickerson waited for his squad mate to ping him over block, but she didn't. Maybe she'd actually gotten the message nobody had all the pieces to this puzzle. Maybe the captain, but no one else. He bet that just put a burr up the corporal's saddle. Couldn't blame her either. His HUD lit with an alert. It was the flight plan. Alternate paths were marked in descending colors of green until they became yellow or red. The black ones, however, were the most interesting. According to the color key, black was unknown. Dickerson bet those were the areas where they had no sensor coverage. Although how black had any to begin with was a mystery to him.
Okay, Black Company.
Dunn's voice rang through his ears.
No risks, no bullshit. Above all, no heroics. We take it slow and careful. Corporal, whenever you're ready.
Acknowledged, sir.
Dickerson checked his cams again. Murdoch and Copenhaver stood to either side of the hatch while Went provided a sentry between the scientists and whatever might try and break through into the hangar. Good luck with that, he thought. Elliot, missing a hand or not, would do his job. So would Went, Copenhaver, and Murdoch. The only question was whether or not that would be enough.
Squads,
Callie said.
Beta, report status.
Ready, boss.
Went said.
Alpha is a go, Lieutenant. We're ready.
Acknowledged.
Long 5-second pause ensued, giving Dickerson more than enough time to imagine those sharp talons ripping through vacuum and searching for a suited human.
You're a go, Callie.
Another pause, less pregnant.
Beta, open the hatch. Alpha, get ready to move.
Dickerson adjusted his grip on his rifle for the 20th time, his fingers aching from the effort. He forced himself to relax, but by the time Callie gave the go order, it was far too late for that. Chapter 38. The hatch opened silently in the vacuum. With only the sound of her breathing for company, Kelly stepped through and into darkness. The ambient light streaming through the hatchway from the emergency hangar lights did little to dispel the gloom. The shadows nestled tightly at the edge of the ambient light before disappearing into a cavernous maw of darkness. She took a deep breath, tightened her fingers on her rifle, and took a few steps into the dim gloom. With her helmet light tightly focused on the floor to keep from spilling unnecessary ambient light, she took a few more steps and stopped. It was too dark. She couldn't see anything beyond the white circle of light on the floor and a few centimeters to either side. Dickerson, cover my flank,
Copy, Corporal,
he said. Through the rear cam, she watched his huge shadow step through the hatch and into the darkness with her. He took up position on her left side, guarding her from any possible threats. Well, that was bullshit. She knew he'd try, but doubted it would do much good if a whole swarm of starfish decided to descend upon them. Kelly activated her low-light filters, and the ground before her lit up in a haze of green. There still wasn't enough light for her to see much past a meter on either side. More light. They needed so much more light, preferably something that didn't get the creatures excited. With more than a little trepidation, she pulled a small cylinder from her pouch, cracked it, and aimed it for where she knew the hangar personnel had offices and workstations. The cylinder floated through the microgravity, its green light perforating the gloom and finally giving her low-light filters something to use. She immediately regretted it. 7 bodies floated in the microgravity, their jumpsuits shredded in places. The corpses bobbed aimlessly through the area. Some of the faces looked as though they'd been savaged by sharp daggers. "I've got casualties, sir," Kelly said over the comm channel. Noble sighed.
"Expected. How bad?"
"Bad," she said. "Bad enough." Noble didn't reply. Now that she had some light, the low-light filters amplified the photons just enough for her to make out the cavernous hangar operations center. Most of it, anyway.
"Corporal,"
Dickerson said quietly. She checked her cam feed and saw he was pointing at something. "Carb, move up," Kelly said. She waited until Carb's shadow filled the hatch before standing astride Dickerson. The formerly smooth deck had several irregularly shaped large bumps, as though something had battered into the decking over and over again. Something that had a lot of mass, but hadn't been able to perforate the utmost steel, thankfully. Kelly activated the command channel. "Sir, we've got signs of an attack from below decks."
"Corporal,"
Dunn said.
"have you found their ingress point?"
Kelly twirled her fingers in the air. Dickerson saw it and immediately walked a few meters down from her, his focused suit light dancing over the utmost steel, looking for more damage. Carb was doing the same. "No, sir," Kelly said. "Not yet. No signs of the creatures either."
"Copy,"
Dunn said. A momentary pause ensued, and Kelly knew that the captain was talking with Noble, maybe even the LT.
"Corporal,"
Noble said over the command channel.
"we're coming in. Wait for Beta to relieve you before covering our asses."
"Aye, sir. Beta, you heard the man. Alpha, let's get this done." Carb, Dickerson, and Kelly held their positions, their eyes flicking across their suit cameras as well as their visors. The random scatter of debris that hung in the air continued its aimless journey from one side of the bulkhead to the other, but it was the only sign of movement.
"Boss,"
Went said.
"on your 6.
"Aye, get up here." Went didn't reply, but he, Murdoch, and Copenhaver came through the hatchway with somewhat competent magwalks. Copenhaver, she noted, had already improved. When Beta was in position, she activated the command channel. "Sir, we're ready."
"Copy. I want the slip points cleared in 2 minutes, Corporal. Make it happen."
"Aye, sir." Without a thought, she switched to the squad channel. "Went, get your Marines to check out the express slip point to the medical bays. Carb, Dickerson, cover." The 3 Marines responded, and a moment later, Beta moved through the dimly lit area. Another light stick came to life, and Murdoch threw it at shoulder height. Looking like a fluorescent green spear, the light stick flew through the gloom, briefly illuminating more carnage and damage. 2 more bodies near the bed bay slip point, as well as the personnel express. "They were trying to escape," Kelly said to herself. "The things caught them before they could get through." When had it happened? Shift change? There should have been more corpses in the area. At least 40 SFN and SFMC personnel were down here at all times. So where were they? No one in red, no one in blue, and no one in black. All 3 S&R hangars have been empty of people as well as answers. Maybe they've been lost to decompression, just squirted through a damaged bulkhead, their liquid and crushed remains destined to forever orbit Neptune. What the void happened here? As Went and his squad approached the medbay slip point, the focused rings of their helmet lights bobbing down the deck, she cast a glance toward the other slip points. The light stick, coupled with her low-light vision filter, was just bright enough to illuminate the others. They looked like hungry, cavernous maws in the shadows. Kelly shivered and checked her cameras. Dickerson and Carb stood at their stations, their rifles pointed off into space but ready to flick at any target.
"Boss,"
Went called. "Go."
"slip point is clear as far as I can see, but there are no lights, so it's a little, difficult to judge."
Kelly grinned. After her stint on Mira, she completely understood what he meant. "Copy. Debris?"
"Big chunks of something floating in there. I have a feeling it's either debris from down here that got sucked in, or it's from hull damage further up the slip."
Kelly thought for a moment before bringing up the flight plan. The model accounted for the debris, which is why they were exiting the slip point early. She switched to the command channel. "Lieutenant, Beta has cleared the slip point entry and we have control of the main deck."
"Copy. Hold positions. We're coming in."
"Aye, sir," Kelly said. To her squads, she said, "The parade of civvies is about to enter. Keep your heads on a swivel." A rain of affirmatives poured down, the voices dead cold from the experienced Marines, while Copenhaver's had a bit of a twitch in it. She was scared. Kelly could have told her that was expected. In a few seconds, the first EVA suit exited the hatch. The scientist, steps hesitant and awkward, visibly trembled inside the suit. "Just don't freeze on me," Kelly said aloud. Another scientist appeared, and another. They walked like pale zombies into the slip point foyer, their hands dangling before them. By the time the stasis pod appeared, buttressed on either side by a scientist, the slip point lobby was starting to get full. Dunn and Talby brought up the rear, the pair covering the hangar hatch, although she was sure they needn't have bothered. Black would have warned them if there was a threat. Wouldn't she? Elliot sat atop the stasis pod, his rifle aimed at the drop ceiling. Kelly grinned. The big, maimed Marine was obviously enjoying this, his head constantly swiveling as though to reassure the civvies.
"This is the captain,"
Dunn said over the general comms. Even the civvies would be able to hear him.
"Proceed with caution. Don't use your jets unless you have to. Do not, I repeat, do not burn for more than a few heartbeats. There won't be enough light for you to see more than a few meters ahead. So communicate if you come across something, so the person behind you has a chance to get out of the way. On that note," he continued, "don't bunch up. Do not fly directly behind someone. Try and keep a line of sight ahead of you and them at all times. Questions?"
A silence lingered, and Callie thought she knew why. The civvies were talking to Dunn over another channel. Either he or Noble had made the blessed decision to keep the Marines out of this part of the mission.
Wonder what they're saying,
Carp said over the squad comms. Went chuckled.
"Probably asking how to use the jets." "No,"
Dickerson said.
"Probably asking why they can't use their suit lights."
The chuckles and snorts quickly faded into a deathly silence. Kelly shivered. After what seemed like an eternity, Noble's voice broke the uneasy quiet.
"Corporal, it's time."
"Aye, sir," she replied. "Beta, follow the flight plan. Went, I want your squad to cover slip point exit and spread in a 25-meter radius to help the scientists if something happens."
"Copy, boss."
Dickerson, cover the 2 slip points to starboard. Carp, get port. I don't want anything coming out of there."
"Hi, boss,"
Carp said.
"Corporal, we do have more slip points to worry about down the corridor."
"I know," Kelly said, "which is why we're going to stay frosty and stop talking." She immediately felt like an asshole for having shut him down like that, but still, she was seething. Dickerson was probably trying to be helpful, especially since she'd only been stationed on Trident for 6 weeks, but his voice had sounded wrong. Or maybe it did just to you. Kelly brought up the squad cams and focused on Went's Marines. Their suit lights were on, but barely glowed as they traveled through the darkness. Went was leading with Copenhagen and Murdoch spread behind him. The flight plan had been right about the amount of debris. It was staggering. 3 decks up, an entire plate must have come loose and somehow shattered. The remains of several bulkheads attached to that plate were dragged out into the slip point as a result. It might as well have been a new wall. Apart from that, she didn't catch glimpses of silver or shimmers in the shadows, although with this little light, she didn't know if she'd be able to see them anyway. Copenhagen was the first to jet to a halt. She turned to face the slip point entrance some 50 meters away. Murdoch was next, taking a position near the wall and covering anything that might find its way through the densely packed debris field. Wentz came to a stop at the slip point emergency exit hatch.
"Okay, boss, I'm here."
"Get in there, but be cautious. You need to clear 50 meters in either direction. Understood?"
"On it, boss."
She brought up his helmet cam and telemetry. The emergency hatch, its white paint glowing beneath his suit lights, was a 3-meter diameter circle with a manual lever. Went, however, didn't need the lever. A simple block command was enough to bring the batteries to life. The hatch cycled inward before sliding aside and disappearing altogether. Kelly readied herself for a long starfish arm to flick out of the darkness and snatch Went, but it didn't happen. He maneuvered inside the deep airlock, his helmet light unfocusing slightly to illuminate the area. No exo-baddies, no bodies, and no sign of damage.
"Clear, boss."
"Copy. Go." The outer hatch cycled again, and the opening disappeared as though it had never been there. Went's cam feed jittered with lost frames, but his voice remained clear.
"In, boss. I have pressure and I have O2 here. No damage."
His cam feed went out altogether, and Kelly cursed. It was the layers of Atmos steel and inner EMP shielding. Without station power augmenting the suit comms, there wasn't enough bandwidth for the video. The radio, on the other hand, remained clear. She wondered just how long that would last. In a moment, she got her answer. Went's voice crackled in her ears, words dropping out. From what she could tell, he had cleared one side and was in the process of clearing the other corridor. After a few beats of silence, Callie said, "Went, do you copy?" There was no reply. She waited in silence, her teeth chewing at her bottom lip. After what seemed like a maddening eternity, although in truth it was only 10 seconds, Went's voice crackled on the channel.
Boss, we're clear.
Went, you completely disappeared on me.
Hi, boss. Couldn't hear you either. We have a dropout on our flight plan, and I'm guessing it won't be the only one.
Copy. I'm sending the civvies.
Beta will be ready. Out.
Kelly sighed before switching to the command channel. Lieutenant, Went's cleared the egress point.
Copy.
Noble said.
We'll start now.
Copy, Kelly said. One by one, the scientists entered the slip point. Getting the stasis pod inside was a little more difficult, but they managed. She didn't envy the captain and Noble's chore of guiding the scientists the 70 meters up the slip and making them wait while the stasis pod was placed inside the airlock. Noble and Dunn wouldn't be able to get them all in at once. 2 cycles. 2 airlock cycles to get everyone in, and that didn't count the Marines. Callie was willing to bet it would take another 2 precious minutes to get them all in, and then Callie and her squad could start their ascent. They had plenty of O2, enough power to keep their bodies warm long after their O2 ran out, and as long as they didn't have to constantly jet for their lives, they'd have more than enough fuel to get them through the maze of debris and blocked corridors. Time was the problem. You couldn't afford to waste a single second when the enemy could drop on you at any moment and from any direction. Kelly switched to Copenhagen's cam and watched the scientists and the stasis pod approach. The civvies' suit lights were practically off, making her wonder how terrified they must be. Welcome to the party, she thought.
Boss, I got movement,
Murdoch said over the squad comms. Kelly switched from Copenhagen's feed to Murdoch's. His helmet cam was aimed at the far edge of the slip point cylinder. Pieces of debris floated away from the massive wall of shattered deck plating. As Callie watched, a few more appeared, small but indicative. Good catch, Murdoch. Hold position. Went, get those civvies in fast. Cram them into one another if you have to.
Got it, boss.
Copenhagen, help them move their asses.
Hi, boss.
Kelly switched over to the command channel. Sir?
We heard,
Noble said.
We're moving them.
Sir, permission to send 2 Marines up the slip point to help cover?
Send me 1,
Noble said.
but make damn sure they're moving fast.
Carb, go cover the egress.
Got it, boss.
Carb said. Kelly watched the Marine expertly disengage her mag boots and hit her thrusters at the same time. Carb curled into a ball as she approached the slip point entrance and hit the jets when she came out of the roll. Void of a time to show off, Kelly thought. Ice crystals drifted from the drop ceiling. Kelly ignored them and focused on Carb's helmet cam. The wall of debris blocking the slip point was rapidly coming apart. Large fragments of the shattered deck plates had begun to drift further into the slip point. Whatever was behind that wall of junk was coming through. Carb was moving too fast for Callie's liking, but she managed to find a path hugging the edge while she streaked toward the emergency hatch. Callie caught movement at the camera's edge and frowned. No, she thought, that can't be. Something snaked through a hole in the debris wall, its end terminating in what looked like a silver blade. The tentacle, or arm, or whatever it was, moved until it had a grip on the wall and began to pull. A third of the wall gave way just as the last of the civvies reached the completely crowded airlock. Copenhagen was attempting to stuff the last one in when Carb exhausted nearly all of her stored-up CO2 in a single blast to come to a less than graceful halt before smashing into the wall. A wave of ice crystals danced in the air before Callie, but she ignored it again.
Boss?
Dickerson said over the comms. Callie said nothing. 200 meters down the slip point, her Marines were fighting for their lives.